Hello everyone from Osaka, Japan. As you can see, I'm staying in a crappy hotel in the one of the worst parts of Osaka, but it's not dangerous at all, despite what Japanese people say. It's quite safe. Um, so I'm experimenting with a mic placement here because I realized I might have lost or forgotten the mic stand in Hiroshima where I was 2 days ago, and I'm a bit sad because it's kind of this part that attaches here is hard to replace. The stand itself is no big deal. So might cost me a little bit of money. So please please subscribe. I need the money. It's so weird, being a YouTuber. I don't even consider myself a YouTuber. I'm just a musician who has some knowledge, and I like sharing that knowledge with people who are willing to listen. But yeah, because this is one of my main sources of income, I do need as much support as possible. So really, thank you to all those who buy stuff off of DC Music School, Sound Slice, or anything like that. Every little bit helps. I need to become quote unquote famous, so I get more views, more money, and therefore I can make more content. I'm not in it for the bling bling culture. I'm in it just to be able to survive and just to continue to do what I'm doing. If I were so rich, financially independent, then I would continue making this content, but I would also be creating jobs. I would have people to assist me, people to edit videos for me, and all that stuff. And I would just be making content all day for everyone. So please, make me rich. So one thing that I've been doing lately has been posting more on Instagram, on TikTok, and posting YouTube shorts, because apparently that's what you got to do to become famous. Oh yeah, I want to become so famous. I want to be the next Tico Rosenberg. So awesome. And I posted a series of videos on how to approach learning jazz as a language, because I think that is the key to learning effectively and to learning as fast as possible. For those of you who know me, you know that I live in Japan. I moved here 3 years ago. I never planned to move here, and when I came here, I spoke no Japanese. And in 3 years, I had to catch up as fast as possible. I still am working hard on it. It's gone to a point where when I speak Japanese to some Japanese people, they don't know that I'm not Japanese. That makes me very happy. I mean, after a while, maybe I make some mistakes and things like that. But in the initial conversations, it's become like a script for me. It always starts like this. So, because I travel all over Japan, I'm always changing cities. When I take taxi or when I go to a shop or something, I tell them, oh, I'm not a local, I'm not from here. So they ask me, okay, so where are you from? Then I say I'm from Canada. Then there's like an awkward silence, like, well, come again? I'm Canadian. It's like, well, you're Canadian? And I always make this joke, can't you see by my face? Can't you tell by looking at my face? And some people take it serious, like, no, I can't tell. I thought you were Japanese. And I would say, then they would ask me if I was Japanese Canadian. It's like, no, I'm not Japanese at all. I have nothing to do with Japan. So it's pretty funny that way. This conversation I have every time I go to a new city. And a few days ago, I was in Hiroshima, in this area where there are tons of tourists. And I was practicing my guitar in the park. A lot of foreigners tried to talk to me in Japanese. They wanted to practice Japanese with me. So I was happy to oblige. I pretended I was Japanese. I spoke to them. Some people were pretty good at Japanese, and they still couldn't tell I was not Japanese. At the end, I had to tell this nice American couple from Oregon. I spoke to them 100% in Japanese, and they had pretty decent level. At the end, I told them, hey, by the way, I'm not Japanese. I'm like, whoa, what? So, how did I get so advanced in Japanese? It has nothing to do with me being smart. It has everything to do with me adopting the right strategies. The strategies I learned from music making. So we're going to look at the parallels. I've made videos like this before as well. And the simple thing is, you have to be in the environment. You have to be immersed in it. Take advantage of the environment. So if you're trying to learn to play jazz or gypsy jazz, try to find the community as fast as possible. Because many people have told me, oh, I'm not ready to be part of the community. I'm not good enough. The people are too advanced. Trust me, I know the same feeling because I play flamenco as well. Sometimes, at gypsy jazz, these people ask me, all right, Dennis, play a flamenco tune. I'm not ready for it. But, I can do something very basic, like I can do a very, very basic solea. And so sometimes when I'm in the park and people ask me to play something, I'll do something like that. You have to start somewhere. Because if you're too afraid, you'll never develop the skills to actually do what it is that you're trying to do. I know people who have stayed at home practicing many hours a day, and in my opinion, often very inefficiently, that they're still not ready to play in front of people, to play with people. In order to be able to play with people, it's true, you need to do a little bit of homework at home. But once you do that homework, and it doesn't take too long, you need to start to use it in the environment as soon as possible. That's what it was for me in Japanese. I've shared this story before in previous videos. I started out by going to convenience stores, to McDonald's, to Starbucks, all these, where I had this kind of safe space because it was going to be the same interaction every day. Like I'd order the same thing, and when I'd get adventurous, I would change the order. Sometimes to practice certain grammatical points, I would make an order on purpose, the incorrect order, and then tell them, oh, sorry, I made a mistake. Can I get this instead? Just to be able to practice that interaction. That's how I got started. So as a beginner in jazz or gypsy jazz, whatever, you go to the sessions. You tell the people around you that you're a beginner. You don't have confidence. And if they're not assholes, most of them are not, in my opinion. Most people tend to be nice, I believe. I hope so. And with the occasional a-hole who shits all over you. Beautiful, you had corn for breakfast. But what was I going to say? Yeah, most of them are cool. And, just play some rhythm quietly in the background just to get used to things. And then maybe if there's a song that you know, play the melody. Ask them, hey, I know this song. Can I play the melody? Try it. You might be really nervous and you might mess it up in the beginning. But that's good because it shows you, okay, you still haven't practiced that melody hard enough. So you're going to go home, you're going to practice the melody even harder. So that next time, hopefully you get it. And then next time you do it, you're going to still be nervous. Maybe you still mess up, but hopefully it's better than the previous time. And on it goes like that. It was the exact same thing for me with Japanese. When I first went to McDonald's making an order, my mouth stumbled. I practiced so many times, at home, like making the order. I'd like to have a cheeseburger, please. And then I'd show up, at the counter. I'd like to have a, it's so embarrassing. But you have to accept this as part of the process. So you have to have this courage to do this. And it only gets better. The more you do it, so you mess up, you go back home, you practice it, you go back, you mess up, but hopefully not as much. And gradually you get better. Within a year of doing this, you should be able to start to, depending on how often you practice, how often you get together with the people, and how often you address the issues that need to be addressed. But within a year, you could be playing gigs. I know people who are doing that, who started music late and had been playing for long, but they did things the right way and they start to play gigs and they get better and better that way. There are different kinds of ways to practice. There's practicing on the bandstand, there's also practicing at home. Those are two separate things. I've talked about this in videos, but a lot of people are ignoring one in favor of the other. It's not good also to just practice on the bandstand because the bandstand is it shows you your true level. And on the bandstand, if you're always making the exact same mistakes, it means that you're not doing the right kind of practice at home to address those mistakes on the bandstand. So they go hand in hand together. On the other hand, you have the people who only practice at home but never practice on the bandstand. And so they often, it's my problem with flamenco as well. Actually, I know quite a lot of different things on flamenco guitar. For solea, like there are different styles in flamenco. Solea is what I just did here, that 12 count thing. So that's solea. I know different compas. I know quite a few falsetas, different things, but I still have trouble stringing them together because it requires a lot of thought. And one way to address that, I should address this, is to play flamenco concerts, but I don't really have the opportunity to do this. The ideal thing for me would be to find a community and to play with dancers as a beginner, just doing simple things, like even bulerías. etc. Just doing something like that for dancers, that would work wonders for me. Just to, because I do practice a lot off the bandstand, practicing on my own separate things, but being on the bandstand is something that's lacking for me as far as flamenco is concerned. Okay, so that's something you gotta do. The next thing you gotta do is to learn the music that the community is into. Hopefully you find a community that is fairly diverse, so you can learn, you can find the people that you have chemistry with, and you start learning the repertoire. You go to the festivals. If you're in Gypsy jazz, in the United States, you go to Django Fest Northwest, you go to Django in June, you go to all these Django nerd events. In Europe, you're even better served in Western Europe, Netherlands, Germany, etc. But if you're into regular jazz, in New York City, go to jam sessions every night and check out the songs that are being played. Learn those songs. And again, as a beginner, you don't have to learn how to improvise over them. You can just be in the corner just comping. Just tell them, hey, I just want to comp. If you're a bass player, you say, I just want to play bass lines. I don't need to solo. Make sure you learn the songs well at home. I don't recommend reading off of a chart, because there are some people who do only that and they never end up learning the music. Because when you learn the song by heart, what's happening is, especially you do it without a chart, you're creating this internal connection with the music that does not necessarily happen when you're doing the reading. Case in point, I did this gig with a singer some time ago, and she wanted to do All the Things You Are, and she had a chart for it, because in Japan it's all about the charts. They love the charts. And me, like an idiot, I was staring at the chart because it was just in front of me. I know this song. It's not the easiest song to transpose, actually, but I should have been able to do it. But I was just looking at it, and I remember reading the chart. It was fine. Then at one point, I decided not to look at the chart, and that's where I got totally lost, because I was just relying on the visual cues. It's as if, let's say, I don't speak Spanish, so you can give me a Spanish text. I know enough of how the Spanish language works that I can read the alphabet and get the pronunciation more or less correct. So you can give me a Spanish text, I'll read it, but I won't understand anything. To me, that's the same thing. What you need to do is really understand the music. And to understand the music, you have to have the connection within you. So what I should have done from the beginning is play it by memory. So if it was in the key, for example, of D flat, I should have known that, okay, it starts on this chord. Because I know if it's in D flat, it starts on this chord. I see the relationship. Not necessarily in theoretical terms. I just know that in the original key of A flat, the most instrumentalists play it, it starts on A flat, and therefore it starts on F minor. It has this relationship. So on D flat, I'm just doing this by pure instinct right now. Did I get it right? I think I did. Little hesitation. It's not the easiest song. F minor, B flat minor, A flat, B flat, then after G7, C, then 2 5 1 to C, then B minor step flat, A F7. Did I miss me? No, I didn't. I made a mistake, but I turned into a... See, I played D flat, and for some reason I was about to go back to the key of an A flat, but I played a C7. But here's the cool thing. Guys, I've trained my instincts so much. It's supposed to go from D flat to F7, but I did D flat, C7. As soon as I played the C7, I realized I made a mistake. But I think it was Bill Frisell who said, all right, if you make a mistake, try to figure out how you can turn it into something correct. So C7 is correct, it should be F7, but C7 is the dominant of F7, so boom, chain of 2-5. This is something that you can only develop if you're working this way instead of reading, just training your instincts. This is what I've been training to do for a long time. And the only way to do this is to do it, is to screw up a lot in the beginning. Okay? So, yeah, learn the music by heart if you can. In the beginning, yes, you can have training wheels. You can have a chart in the beginning, but you need to do this work by yourself. Listen to the music. Listen to what your favorite guitar players are doing, or not just guitar players, musicians are doing. And then you can also have a teacher on the side to help you explain what you don't understand. Maybe not just one teacher, multiple teachers, because it's good to get different opinions. It's the same thing with language. Some people will tell you, oh, this is incorrect English. Oh, you shouldn't say this. This is a matter of preference. What is correct English is actually irrelevant. What's more important is that you speak the way people are speaking wherever that it is that you live. So if you live in Canada, for example, I grew up speaking French because I'm from the French-speaking part of Canada. There's a certain set of vocabulary that we use in Quebec that is not used in France. So I know that vocabulary. But I also am familiar with how they speak in France. So when I'm in France, I know to switch my vocabulary. I know how to do this. It's the same thing with music. And so you may say something that's incorrect in Quebec French, and some French person will say, well, that's incorrect. You should say like that. I'll give you an example. In the French language, you have this masculine and feminine thing. Words have genders, and maybe in a few years it will be multiple genders. Come on, guys, let's not talk politics. Sometimes these jokes, they just come out like that. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if I had Tourette's, but some mild form of Tourette's. What was I gonna say? In Quebec, when you go to the gym, you say le gym, which is masculine. In France, it's like no, it's la gym, la gym. And it's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with Japanese. I was told, oh, you shouldn't say this. It's incorrect. And then somebody, that person's just being anal. It's totally fine. So it's the same with music. Try to get as many different opinions as possible. And if you've heard your favorite player do it, and you like the sound of it, then it's totally fine. For example, minor swing. No. Let's take Charlie Christian. On the song called I Surrender Dear, there is a part where it goes E7 to A minor. So Charlie Christian didn't know any theory at all, or he had his own internal understanding of theory. He knew on E7 he had this shape, E9, and he had this shape that went like this. And he somehow also knew on A minor you can play the same shape. So on the E7 chord, he did something, I don't remember the phrase exactly, but then when he resolved to A minor, he did the exact same thing. According to the modern jazz education of chord scale theories and modes and whatever, that is totally incorrect. But Charlie Christian did it. If you like that sound and you want to sound in that style, that's what you have to do. Wes Montgomery as well. He has this recording of Caravan. I forgot what key he plays it in, but Caravan is in the, let's say, the usual key of F minor. You have C7, basically the A section, going to F minor. And Caravan, it evokes, like this Middle Eastern vibe. So the quote-unquote appropriate scale and sound should be. But sometimes Wes Montgomery was treating it as if it were an F major. So over the C7, Wes would be playing. Phrases like that make no sense. Quote unquote, make no sense according to traditional theory, the way it's taught nowadays. Okay, so check out those recordings. And you learn this by checking out your favorite players. And what it is, because improvisation is very, very difficult to teach because you can do anything. And think of it as a dialect. There are so many dialects out there. Which one is the correct one? There is no correct one. The correct one is the one where people, first of all, understand you. Usually it's the dialect that is spoken wherever it is that you live. So if you're, again, French, if you're living in Quebec, it could be a good idea to learn the Quebec French. And quite honestly, it's not so much different from the French in terms of vocabulary. Just a few little things to know. But if you're living in Belgium, for example, then you should learn the Belgium words that they use, because the number 70 in Quebec, we would say 70. They would say that in France as well. But in Belgium, they would say 70. It's a completely different word. So you adapt yourself that way. So if you're into West Montgomery, if you're into, check out what West was doing. And if you're also into Joe Pass, check out what Joe Pass is doing. If you're into Charlie Park, check out. And then by checking out your favorite players, you take what you like from them, and that's how you create your own style. Because that's exactly what they did. There's a lineage in all of this. You don't have to know everything. You only need to know what it is that you're going to use. When I was younger, I always had this idea that jazz musicians were the most versatile musicians in the world, that they knew how to do everything, which is not true. And especially as those of you who know me, I worked with musicians of extremely high caliber, some of the biggest legends for DC music. I worked with Pat Martino, Mike Stern, blah, blah, blah. And one thing that I realized from working with these legends is that they only knew how to do what they knew how to do. There were certain songs that they didn't want to do because it's not part of what they do. And that was such a big revelation for me, because you go to music school, like, all right, you have to be able to do this, everything. Things that the teachers themselves couldn't even do. I found out later. Like, I remember taking lessons with some teachers. They're great musicians, but because, the curriculum is forced on them, they were teaching these things that they themselves couldn't do, but they wouldn't admit to it. I only found out later, like when I got more mature, my ears developed and everything, I was, hey, this person who taught me these things couldn't even do what they were teaching me. So it's this music school thing can be a bit of a scam, an illusion. Be careful. It's as simple as that. Learn the music that you like. Meet the community. Figure out what your friends are playing. And if you want to be part of the community, you should probably learn the same things. Maybe you can teach them the songs that you like. They'll teach you the songs they like. And, you develop the community that way. And you can also go ask for help from different sources. Different teachers can show you different things. Get different opinions. Like going to a doctor, get a third opinion, a second opinion. One doctor says, oh, it's nothing. The doctor says, hey, maybe we should just get that checked out. Ooh, you have a tumor there, right? Music is the same thing. Language is the same thing. At one point, I had up to 10 Japanese teachers at the same time. Yes, I kid you not. And it was so funny because one teacher would say, oh, you shouldn't say this. It's not correct. Then I was saying, oh, actually, it is correct. Sometimes people don't know what they're talking about, even if they're good at what they do. So anyway, on Instagram, I posted these series of videos on this topic, and here it is, I'm fleshing everything out. So in one video, you saw me play over a jazz blues, where I played in the way that I would tend to play, which tends to be a mix of bluesy ideas with some bebop lines. And so that's not such a big deal. Then in one example, I forced myself not to play any bebop lines or jazz lines whatsoever, just to use only bluesy style vocabulary, which means basically ignoring the changes. But I'm not ignoring the changes blindly. I'm doing everything in a very deliberate way, and everything is very coherent. And the only way you can learn to do this is by learning the vocabulary, learning the phrasing. You can only do this by checking out the music that you like. Because at the end of the day, blues, more or less, is just pentatonics. Minor and major pentatonics mixed together sometimes, but how do you mix them together? So if we're in the key of a B flat, minor pentatonic is this. Major pentatonic is this. But if you mix the two together, you get this. And this is right. See, I can't even do it. But does it sound like blues? But does this sound like blues? That sounds bluesier, right? How did I learn this? I just checked out the music that I like, and I figured it out on the guitar, and it's just part of me. The more you listen to the music that you like, the more you're going to absorb, because you are what you eat, therefore you are what you listen to. This is very, very important. And then when you have the 2-5-1, you can play like the minor pentatonic over, but instead of putting like technical rules to it, it's just a feeling. Because yes, I can describe everything to you in terms of grammar, in terms of theory, because I do have a degree in theory. I learned a lot of music theory. I can tell you, oh, okay, here I'm playing the 6th, the 7th, the 13th, blah, 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 blah. But I'm not thinking of that when I'm playing. In fact, once I played it, for me to analyze what I did, it would take a little bit of time. And by the time I realize what it is, it's already too late. So the instinct thing is very, very important. I can tell you the same thing. Let's say you don't speak English, and I tell you, all right, we're gonna work on conjugation. The verb to have. I have, you have, he has, we have, they have. You have plural, they have. Then the word to forget. I forget, you forget, he forgets. Just memorize, the conjugation patterns. And that will be very, very overwhelming to a beginner. It's much easier just to teach them phrases they can use. Like, for example, are you hungry? That's a great phrase that you can use every day. Or, hey, should we get something to eat? You want to get something to eat? Daily phrase. Or, like I said, I got started with, Starbucks, McDonald's. So, to an English learner, I would tell them, all right, say this to them. I'll have a Big Mac combo, please. Perfect. Or the next day, they'll say that for a week, maybe a month. And then the next month I would tell them, all right, instead of saying the same thing, like, I'll have a Big Mac combo, please. Why don't you say, can I get a Big Mac combo? Very natural, right? At least in America or North America. McDonald's, gonna get fat together. I did that. I had one French guy who came to study Japanese with me in Japan, but he left very shortly because he had such a big culture shock he couldn't take it anymore. But I did the same thing with him. I took him to restaurants. I told him, all right, tell the staff this. And he was saying, and there was this, he was beaming with happiness because it worked. And it was cool because he forgot something at the restaurant. So we went back. I told him, all right, tell the staff this. And he said it. The waiter understood. Boom. Practical usage is the key to learning efficiently. That's how I learned to speak Japanese faster than my classmates. Because my classmates just stayed in the classroom. They never tried to interact with Japanese people. That's the one thing that I did that they did not do. So let's move on. In another version of the jazz blues, I forced myself not to use any blues elements at all, which is very rare for me. So I only play like bebop style lines. One version where I played the way I like to play, mix of blues and jazz. What ratio? I don't know. I can't really say. One version where I only played blues, I do that sometimes, but I don't force myself to do anything because I just tend to go for whatever I feel in the moment. And then another version where I force myself to use only jazz. I almost never do that when I play the jazz blues. So you check out different players to see what they do, what their preferences are. So the way I tend to do things is actually the Wes Montgomery way. He's kind of like my idol for jazz blues. But if you check out Charlie Parker, he does have elements of blues in his playing as well. But when you check out a lot of his recordings over a jazz blues forms, he tends to play a lot of bebop lines. So his ratio, I said ratio. His ratio is more, I don't know, I don't want to put figures, but like maybe 70% jazz, 30% blues. I would say Wes Montgomery is maybe 60% blues, 40% jazz. I might be somewhere there too. And then there are other players, maybe 80% blues, 20%. So it's up to you to find this balance. You are your own boss. So that's how open-ended jazz improvisation can be. And then I did another version where I was playing in an early 1930s way, influenced by Louis Armstrong. And to do that, I had to change the rhythm section. And I used chords that reflected how a blues might have been played in the late 20s and the late 30s. Check out West End blues. This where I wish I could have been a fly on the wall in those days to see how they discuss things, because every chorus was different in terms of the harmony. And then at one point, the pianist has this solo feature, and he decided to change the harmonies even more. I forgot what key they did it in. I guess E flat maybe. So he did, I think, if I remember, E flat, F7, B flat 7, E flat, E flat 7. So this F7 to B flat 7. Why not? It's something you can do. A classic turnaround from the late 20s, 30s at the end. So like after the 4 chord, you can do 4 minor. You can. E flat, B flat 7, F7, B flat 7. Classic late 20s, early 30s jazz blues. Nowadays, when we say jazz blues, it tends to be set in stone. I've made videos about it. I made a video maybe 2 or 3 years ago on how to play jazz blues and rhythm changes from a historical perspective. So check my channel out for that information. And I force myself to do certain things, and I force myself not to do other things to be in the style as much as possible. So one thing that I did, I played B flat. I played B flat. In the second bar, I applied F7 augmented. And these are very typical phrases. Then went to B flat 7. With this augmented, very typical of the 30s. And I did 4. And instead of treating the 4 as a 4 dominant, I treat it as just major. But at 4, if you want, you can treat it as dominant. Minor. What did I do after? Oh, then I did some kind of a B flat diminished idea to get to the F7, but I treat the F7 as F7 sus, which is C minor. So this leads me to this thing about harmony. Harmony is very important. If you study music historically, don't just study what the solo is doing, try to listen to what the rhythm section is doing. It might not always match what the lead sheet says. Nowadays, we're so used to having everything standardized, but in those days, I think there was much more flexibility. And only as time went on, usually because of music schools and fake books, things became more set in stone. It leads me to my next thing, the idea of harmonic direction. It's something that musicians understood very, very early on. I talk a lot about this in my previous videos. I have courses on bebop vocabulary, on harmony, on my SoundSlice. So you really check that out. I think it's really high quality content that is not taught by many other teachers. In fact, I don't know many teachers who really talk about it the way I talk about it, because many teachers have not studied jazz from an early jazz historical perspective. I studied the harmonies of the 1920s, 1910s, even 1910s, 1920s, 1930s, 40s. I can explain to you how the harmony in jazz evolved. Of course, it all came from classical music, but there's actually a progression of tendencies, things that were typical of the 30s that gradually changed. Why did that change? Okay, I don't know exactly, but I have theories about it. I think they changed because people were fed up with doing the same thing all the time. The most typical one is when you have this 4/4 minor thing. Let's say we're in the key of G, you have C to C minor. It is such a typical chord progression of the 30s and 20s. I think musicians got fed up with this. They realized, okay, what can we do to make things different? They realized, hey, C minor, if we play C minor 6, hey, if we put an F bass, it's pretty much the same chord, but it's a different bass line. So instead of having this, sorry, now we have this. So you have the song Cherokee, which was originally B flat, da, 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 B flat 7, B flat, da, da, E flat minor, B flat, da, da. Okay, so you have that 4/4 minor, but nowadays, da, 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 2/5 to E flat, then A flat 7. And if you're into gypsy jazz, a lot of gypsy musicians are highly influenced by Bill Gren, and he changed it to this. Da, 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 da. Instead of E flat minor or A flat 7, they did D7. What's the logic behind this? Well, it does work. It fits the melody, first of all. Does it? Da, 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 dee. It does. But the logic behind that, D7 to the G minor. First of all, G minor is kind of the same as B flat. And D7 and E flat minor, well actually, when you play D7, you can play E flat minor 6 over D7. It creates the altered sound. So D7 E flat minor are related in that way. So there's a lot of creativity out there. So you have to not just check out what the lead player is playing, you also have to check out what the rhythm section is doing. And you learn so much about harmony this way. That's how I learned all my harmony. Not through a textbook, just by checking out recordings. So this idea of harmonic direction is that it's less about the exact harmony that's written on the paper, but about where you are going. And that's where the juicy part is, because every musician has their own interpretation of this. They have their own preferences. So for, let's say we have a chord progression that goes C to D minor to G7. So 2 bars of C. So some players, they might just keep it vanilla. C, D minor in their soloing. They might just outline. Some players, they might do C, A7. Some players, they might do C, then E minor, E flat minor, D minor to G7. Some people might do C, C diminished to D minor to G7. Some people might do C, C sharp diminished to D minor to D sharp diminished, which has nothing to do with the G7. I'm just listing a bunch of things that are historically done. There's no time to explain everything from a theoretical point of view, but these are all things that are done. If you want to hear this sound like the D minor, the D sharp diminished, C over E, check out the recording of All of Me, 1940, I believe, by Django Reinhardt. In his solo, in the middle, when it goes D7 to G7, Django plays D minor, some kind of D minor idea, then D sharp diminished. There we go. Just check out what your favorite players are doing and learn harmony that way. You're going to learn so much. That's what I was doing over the jazz bebop as well. I think I did in the key of F. I think I might have done, yeah, I did F. And then over the B flat chord in the second bar, the quick change, I did B flat major to B flat minor to F. This is something that's done in blues, and I've heard Charlie Parker do this as well. I think he does this in Relaxing at the Camarillo. I think at one point he does like, it's in the key of C, C, F, F minor, C. In his soloing. He's ignoring what the rhythm section is doing. In that same solo, I think I heard him do like an idea before going to the 2-5-1. He does E minor, the E flat minor, the D minor, chromatic. Django also did this in one of his compositions, Djangology in Rome. So there's so much about harmony that you can learn from just checking out your recordings. And a lot of these players learn such things very organically. But the thing is, you got to do the work yourself. Figure out the music. Be involved in the community. And you do this, you're going to progress so rapidly. It's very daunting in the beginning. In fact, you're going to probably crap your pants because it's very scary. I know the feeling because it was exactly the same for me. But you have to accept that you're going to sound like crap in the beginning. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. It's even embarrassing. But I know the feeling. We've all been through the same thing. But you just have to do it. So hopefully this inspires you to get out there and find the people to play with, you know. Find the Tico Rosenbergs of your community. Good luck.